Today we'll be discussing right to repair, or more specifically, legislation which enforces companies to allow their consumers and third parties to repair their devices. Due to the recent influx in consumer electronics, right to repair is something that affects everyone and is really important to consumer rights. Imagine this scenario. You're walking down the street, listening to your music as happy as can be, and you drop your fancy expensive iPhone as hard as you can on the concrete, and you crack the screen. Oh no, terrible thing. Your first inclination would be to go get your phone repaired because we're average consumers and you like your phone, you don't really care to get a new one. But upon going to manufacturer, you realize they'll give you a repair rate on this bunch of years old iPhone 6. They want $129 just to repair the screen. $129 is well over the secondhand value of this phone. It's only worth about $100 on eBay. So what do? Thankfully for the iPhone 6, there's plenty of third-party repair options because the phone was produced at a time before Apple, the company who manufactured the phone, started restricting and locking down repair. So you can bring your phone to a third-party repair shop who will charge you a very fair service rate of like $20 to repair your phone for a reasonable price. Not to mention, aftermarket screens are available for the phone for under the $20 range, and you can repair the phone yourself very easily with a screwdriver and some patience. On a newer iPhone, they serialize the screens. Now, that means that each screen out of the factory is paired to the phone itself. This makes screen repair super difficult for anyone other than the manufacturers. No one has the tools to repair these. Now, initially, Apple only serialized the screens of their phones, which didn't allow people to replace the screens. But as time's gone on, they have serialized the fingerprint scanners, the Face ID scanners, the batteries, and many more components, which stops repair. Even Apple admits that the batteries, a component in their phone, is a component that degrades over time. It loses its ability to hold a charge. And even though they're willing to admit that, they have paired these batteries to the phones from the factory and do not allow them to be replaced by anyone other than themselves for a substantial fee. These multi-billion, or even in some cases multi-trillion-dollar companies put on a facade of being eco-friendly. However, they forgot the most basic principle of reduce, reuse, recycle, and there's a reason reuse comes before recycle. Although recycling is certainly better than throwing something away, reusing is always a much more efficient form of recycling than straight up recycling a device. The reality is, with a modern day smartphone, and not just from the company that has fruit for a logo, your repair options are super limited and they're closing in on consumer rights, and it's unfair to your average person. So why wouldn't you just buy a new one? Well, that is exactly what companies would like you to do. Companies want you to buy a new phone. They want you to buy the new iPhone. Buy it. Because that makes them a lot more money. Now, I'm not picking on Apple a lot for being a specific manufacturer that does a lot of this stuff, but frankly, Apple just does it first. All of the other companies follow as well. Samsung likes to act like they don't do any of this stuff, but they absolutely do. Samsung's done all the same things as Apple. They've serialized their batteries, they've serialized their cameras, they've serialized their screens, and there's no signs of stopping. Right to repair also doesn't just apply to smartphones, so it applies to all consumer electronics. Things such as video game consoles, virtual reality headsets, washing machines, dryers, dishwashers, anything electronic, and more things are these days. Right to repair legislation is already in place in some industries, such as the automobile industry, where cars can be repaired by third-party repairs, and the restrictions that the manufacturer puts on a lot of parts for such as smartphones isn't there in automobiles. You can take your car to a third-party repair company and they will almost always service your car for a cheaper rate than the manufacturer because there's competition and it's a competitive industry. Imagine a situation in which you cracked your car windshield, and the only way you could repair the car windshield would be to take it to the manufacturer, where they would charge you a rate over the used secondhand price of the car. Imagine paying $10,000 to get your windshield replaced. That's the reality in the technology industry. A lot of times in the healthcare industry, a lot of these machines they use can only be repaired by the manufacturers for components that realistically your average technician should be able to repair. Another example would be the agriculture industry, where tractors are not easy to repair because the manufacturers block and restrict you from using third-party parts that are cheap and available. Why can't you repair your tractor? All right, so to conclude, right to repair legislation is about the idea of stopping manufacturers from artificially preventing third-party repair as well as individual personal repair. By stopping manufacturers from serializing individual components, as well as potentially releasing hardware schematics and documentation for repairing their devices. Thank you for your time. Okay.